What is up, my friends? You are very welcome along to this special episode where I am joined by none other than friend of the channel and top Liverpool journalist, Mr. David Lynch. David, how are we, sir?
Yeah, good. Just reacting to that disappointing news that all Liverpool supporters got yesterday and absorbing that one. But yeah, at least it's kind of busy and things are happening in the window. Even if it's not good news, it gives us things to talk and write about, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I'm hopeful we get some business done before the end of the window. But for you yesterday, when did the news start to filter through to you that maybe this is falling apart?
Yeah, but to be honest, it was not getting loads of encouragement in the build up, kind of throughout the day, and you do start to get a little bit worried when there's a pause like that, and the sort of news stops filtering through, and then of course, then we see the breaking news from Spain, and immediately, you have to go to the club then and say, look, is this right? Is this actually the case? And obviously, the way that they went with that story so firm gives a really good idea it was going to be true. And then, sources kind of coming back to you and saying, yeah, this is the case. We've been told today that it's not going to happen, or we've been informed this evening that he wants to stay. So then it's all about putting that news out there, obviously confirming it, and them kind of watching the reaction and see how supporters feel about it, which is not happy. And I kind of understand. I absolutely understand that opinion, because this is finally looked like Liverpool were going to solve what's been such a big problem for them for a number of years now. And unfortunately, that kind of ideal target has got away from Liverpool again. So very, very frustrating situation to cover and be across, really.
So, what do you think actually went wrong here? Because all indications were that he was given positive vibes to the club, to the boys involved in the deal, or they wouldn't have stayed in negotiating. To see it fall apart so quickly, was it them changing his mind with the guilt tripping? Was it the Stephen Gerrard, I can't really go to Chelsea kind of scenario in the last minute? Or was it a combination of everything?
Yes, that's certainly how Liverpool feel about it. Is that the player was put under an awful lot of pressure by Real Sociedad, and I think we could actually see that externally. I mean, we weren't all close to negotiations, but I think it was clear to see with them sort of pushing him to say, "Look, you're going to have to pay your release clause. This is how it's going to go down. You're going to have to force your way out." Doing that presentation that I saw Lewis Steele reported about that they sort of put onto him why he should stay, and putting that kind of emotional pressure on him and using that as leverage. So the feeling on Liverpool's side is that basically that stuff kind of worked. That they explained to him how difficult a situation it would be if he was to leave, and the player with his strong ties to the club kind of went down that road and decided it would be best for him not to go. And I think sometimes you can, the way you look at that, we've got to think that Liverpool are going to be doing similar things with Trent Alexander-Arnold in and around his contract talks. I know Liverpool is a massive club, but it's Real Madrid who may be with a club that's sniffing around him. So, we can't maybe be too critical of Real Sociedad in that, because, as I say, I think Liverpool are going to be doing similar things. But it's frustrating, really, because I think, again, from Liverpool's perspective, and sources certainly telling me that they basically had the player's word. They were convinced that he was going to come, and that was not just in the last few weeks. They did not just come up with this idea to go for him. That was before this summer even began. The player's agent was being sounded out, and he had offered guarantees to Liverpool that, despite the fact he turned down other clubs, he was going to move on this summer. So they had that promise in hand, and you can call that naive to believe that or whatever, but generally, people try and expect people will stick to the word, and if you act in an honourable way, they will do the same. But obviously, this is football; it's a little bit like the Wild West at times, and the player has gone back on his word. I think for honourable reasons, in the sense that he's turned down more money and more high profile to stay with his boyhood club. But that doesn't make Liverpool feel any better about it. I know behind the scenes, incredibly frustrated with the way this one's played out.
So I think, as you said, we can all understand the human side of it, and maybe not moving from your boyhood club. But two questions I think most Liverpool fans would like answers to is, if we paid the release clause or were willing to do it immediately, do you think maybe he wouldn't have had time to talk himself out of it? And also, do you think there's any way this deal gets fixed before the window closes?
But the problem with the release clause is because of it being that Spanish buyout clause, is that Liverpool's hands were tied. And Real Sociedad were saying, you are going to have to do this, as in Liverpool themselves couldn't pay it. It has to be through the player. They give the money to the player. He pays the buyout clause. So because that mechanism was there, it allowed Real Sociedad to drag things out a little bit. Obviously, the player's ideal situation, it would have been that he didn't have to do that. He didn't cut ties with the fans. Him doing that is essentially, it looks, from in PR terms, kind of looks like he's forcing his way out. So very much didn't want to do that. So that bought Real Sociedad a little bit of time, and obviously they were dragging things out in terms of negotiating with Liverpool. If they weren't going to go down that route, how would it look in terms of payment structure? So they just bought themselves time with it, and it worked out perfectly for them because they were able to get in front of the player constantly. Once he got back, they were able to sort of drag those negotiations out and really, as I say, pile the pressure on the player, and that's absolutely panned out for them. Now, in terms of whether this will be revisited or there's any chance, I would say absolutely not. That's certainly the impression I'm getting from the Liverpool side of things. I think the player has given a firm no, and he wants to stay, and he's staying. It's not the case that he's looking for another move or a move at all. He wants to stay at Real Sociedad for at least the next season or so. He's got a decision to make about whether he moves on after that, but it's there's no chance of going back to it, unfortunately, which is a big blow to Liverpool, seeing as at the moment very much looks like he's the only defensive midfielder they've been looking at ahead of this summer.
So even taking into account that move has fallen through, it still leaves us in a sticky situation because Voro Endo has clearly been told initially that he wasn't going to be in Arne Slot's thinking. We've seen loan moves mooted for the likes of Stefan Bajcetic, Bobby Clark. Do you think this falling apart of the deal or this failure to get it over the line is going to have a knock-on effect in that regard? And how, as a club, do you convince Endo, well, now you are good enough?
Yeah, I mean, I certainly think it's going to have a knock-on effect on his future. Liverpool will be, we're very much open to selling him with this move in mind. And as much as the player wanted to resist that was Liverpool's plan, was to move him on this summer if a decent offer came in and the player was willing to accept it. Whereas now I think they're going to be less ready to do that. Absolutely. I think they'll keep him around because there's kind of no plans really to add someone else in that position. And I think you do need someone. Even if he's not perfect for Arne Slot's style of play, you can't completely decimate your squad depth in that part of the pitch. You're going to need him, even if it's just for cup games or whatever. They really do need to keep him around. So it does have a kind of knock-on effect on that. And I think you could kind of say that it's maybe partly alienated Endo in terms of he's been told he's firmly not going to be part of the manager's plans. But as I've said before on this channel, I think that from the player's side of things, very much my understanding, he was determined to stay and fight for his place. So I think from his perspective, he'll just see this as an opportunity. It's an easier route to getting into the team. It's and hopefully he'll play well enough to keep him there. So I think it's kind of helpful from Endo's point of view that he's maybe going to get more opportunities to show that he deserves to stick around.
Now, it is only Tuesday, 13th of August, as we sit here. There's still 17 days and a few hours left of transfer activity. Do you think there may be another addition in that area of the pitch for Liverpool, or is it a case of we're going to go back to the drawing board and see what future opportunities present themselves?
Yeah, my expectation, I know probably not what supporters want to hear, is that it's very, very unlikely that there's going to be an alternative signed. I think that's, it fits really with how we know Liverpool operate in terms of transfers, in terms of, they do get a certain target in the mind. They're very picky, and they are picky, particularly in this position. I was speaking to someone at the club about this today, that their feeling is, look, this is a sparse number 6 market. They finally found someone who they think fitted the bill. And unfortunately, it's not worked out. But that doesn't mean they're going to go and make a panic signing now. Now, for me, my feeling, sometimes when I report these things, and that's the club's stance, I must emphasise that that's what I'm communicating. It doesn't necessarily mean that that's what I think, because my personal opinion on this is kind of, sometimes for Liverpool, they're absolutely right. There are situations where you have to hold on. Virgil van Dijk being a great example of that. But they have shown a willingness to be flexible over targets from time to time. You think of some of the really good examples of players who've been second choice, who've come in down the years. Mario Götze they were looking at, then they get signed Sadio Mane instead. Mo Salah and Julian Brandt, everyone knows about that choice that Liverpool made. So I think there's evidence in the past that they have been more willing to drop a little bit further down that list. And I just wonder whether they'll regret not showing that willingness in this specific situation, and whether sometimes in terms of profile, perfect and the absolute desire to get someone in who's perfect can be the enemy of good. Because sometimes I think there surely are players who are not quite Zubimendi's level, but they still move the dial a little bit for Liverpool. I would like to think out there. Again, it's easy for someone to come back and say, well, who are they? And I'm no scout to say that, and maybe I'm absolutely wrong, but I do wonder. as I say, whether they are just too wed to the idea of it being absolutely perfect. And, in the time that it takes to sign that perfect six, the likes of Van Dijk's getting a year older and they're not as good, and same with Mo Salah, and you're losing those players or them at their peak level to wait for this perfect number six to come up, and then he comes and your team's not quite as good in other positions. So that's kind of my view on it. Obviously, Liverpool have their view, which is that they don't want to sign someone who's going to be a short-term option. They don't want to end up with another Endo on the books and then have to move them on in a year's time. They do want it that perfect signing, and I guess the proof will be in the pudding in terms of how Liverpool performed this season and whether that was the right decision or not.
This is, I think, Tchouaméni, Caicedo, Lavia, now this situation. So as fans, obviously, you start to ask yourself, well, like you've maybe suggested, is it too perfect? Are we looking for that dream partner in life maybe that just doesn't exist? So, yep, look, I understand and appreciate it's a difficult topic to discuss, David, and I appreciate your candid answers. On a bit of filming that was captured today in and around Anfield, it seems like somebody was walking around in a number 66 shirt. Maybe a little contract extension on the way, or do you think that this is premature?
Yeah, I'd be surprised if that's anything to do with the contract. I'll be honest. I think obviously I don't think that's Liverpool's direct priority in these final days of the window. I think Trent is the number one contract of the lot, but in terms of I think the focus is business elsewhere, and they've only got a couple of weeks to get that out of the way, and then they can really hammer into the contracts with Trent being absolute priority. And my suspicion is, having worked for the club previously, is that is something to do with some sort of activation with a partner, or I think with Trent and his contract, I'm pretty sure he will be the one who's in the video that announces it, rather than getting in a body double, which is what it seemed to be in that video from what I could see.
Yeah, maybe a bit of Lucasade love or something like that, because we have just partnered back up with those guys. One story today, David, that came out of nowhere from El Chingarito or whatever that crazy channel is over in Spain was the Luis Diaz rumors. Now, you and I've spoke about this on a couple of occasions, and that it's almost as if nobody's coming to buy him, but we're very quick to tell the world how much he's going to cost. 50 million, 70 million. Are we inviting offers here to try and get Anthony Gordon in, or do you think that maybe there's an insistence from the players camp to move on, because he's had a good pre-season, what we've seen of him?
Yeah, I think kind of what we're getting the impression of, and certainly I get very much the impression from Liverpool sources that they are open to selling him. It's not quite in a position where they're happy to get rid, but they're very much open to the idea of moving on. In terms of, I just think that he can upgrade in terms of output on that left hand side, as good as Luis Diaz has been. When he's on it, he's a really good player. We mustn't forget that in the kind of bid to push him out the door. But I think there's an openness from Liverpool's side to sell him, and that they feel that there are targets out there who they could replace him with. Anthony Gordon being the absolute obvious one, who I have no doubt they would go in for. But I also think there's a willingness on the players' side. And I do wonder whether the story that came out today possibly came from the players' side, on the basis that they're kind of trying to drum the market up for him, trying to kick Barcelona's backsides into gear a little bit, and to get that bid to come in, because there is really kind of nothing to be said on that, is there, until someone actually comes in with a firm bid. Liverpool can have their valuation, but until someone puts any money on the table, then there's not even kind of a discussion or a negotiation to have. So I do wonder whether Luis Diaz's representatives are trying to speed that up a little bit, and that's where that kind of crazy story came out, even though it only lasted about 15 minutes till it got knocked down.
Yeah, I mean, if you go with Man City, it's pretty quick for Liverpool to go, and can't see Liverpool sanctioning, or Liverpool fans to go, can't see really Liverpool sanctioning that move. You'd ideally want to move a player outside of a league rather than keeping them in with your rivals. Now, obviously, we touched on the fact that there is still 7 days to go in this window. Outside of maybe Georgi Mamradashvili, do you think there's any other potential incomings?
I still think there's potential for some outgoings that might open it up. I still keep mentioning Kostas Tsimikas for me as someone who I just have a little feeling around that maybe something could happen there. Again, it would have to open, offers have to come to the table. They can't just push him out the door. But I think, we know that kind of centre half / left back is something that Liverpool have been monitoring the market for. So I think, and Joe Gomez is another one actually mentioned in that breath, in terms of, Aston Villa potentially looking there. We know that the player would be open to moving. Again, Liverpool aren't trying to kick him out. Certainly not the case, and would be happy to have him in the squad next season. But if an opportunity comes up that he would like to take in terms of playing more frequently, they're not going to stand in his way. So I think there are potential opportunities that could open up in terms of additions there. And as you mentioned, I think Mamardashvili, I don't think that story's quite dead yet. Definite interest on Liverpool's side. I can absolutely confirm that. Whether they kind of follow that through and get that signing done this summer, we'll have to see, because there's absolutely no expectation that there'll be an opening for a goalkeeper this summer. Alisson is going nowhere. I can absolutely confirm that. So yeah, there's potential for further additions. And I would always say as well that, the manager himself said, didn't he, that he expected a couple of signings. I keep coming back to that. I think all hell will break loose if he doesn't get that, in terms of, I'd be really surprised if that doesn't get delivered on, because he said that publicly and seemed very confident about it. So I think people can expect additions, and usually always, Liverpool generally, outside of this Zubimendi situation that got dragged on, and they didn't want that out there, by the way. I keep hearing people saying, why did it get briefed? That's absolutely not how it worked.
I
Sometimes
did credit you for that on the show. I said, when I spoke with David, he said this certainly didn't come from the Liverpool side. This was discovered by a journalist.
Exactly. We really need to put that out there, because I think people think that everything is pushed out, and Liverpool always want to publicise these things, and that's not the case. But I think they are, generally speaking, outside of that situation, very, very good at keeping things locked down. So in terms of potential targets for incomings, there'll be players we haven't even thought about that will pop up from nowhere. So not too worried yet. There is time left in the window, potential for movement outwards and inwards. And I think Liverpool do need at least a couple in to just give that little boost to the squad, particularly if they're not going to get that defensive midfielder. Can you add a little bit more creativity or goals in the forward line and a bit more solidity at the back? And hopefully they will do that.
Bastoni's name has been mentioned far and wide. Now, he doesn't fit the profile that you and I have spoken about on numerous occasions. Do you think this is just another case of fans hoping rather than any expectation from our side?
Yeah, so I've kind of heard that rumor from a source that I do put a lot of stock in. Someone who I think kind of knows the stuff. Is not maybe strong enough for me to write it, but that there is at least a little bit of interest on Liverpool's side. But in terms of, as you say, in terms of the profile, I find him very, very hard to believe as a target in this window, just because how well stocked Liverpool are and how much quality they've got in those centre half positions at the moment. Yes, you could say they need one more for depth maybe, but I don't think it's going to be someone of Bastoni's profile who's coming in to compete with what else they've got in that position. It's just for me very hard to see. And again, I know some suggestions he can play out at left back, but again, I just think Liverpool would want someone slightly less centre half, like who's more flexible out on that side to be a starting left back. I'd just be kind of interested if that was the route they go down. So to me, just even though I've heard it myself, doesn't seem quite believable, to be honest, and not one I'm putting a lot of stock in at the moment.
Will there be any opportunity or indication that maybe we revisit Levi Colwill or somebody like that who may tick a few more boxes for age profile, experience? Obviously, Chelsea may be needing to move some bodies on because they're going to have to build a second changing room at this point, David.
Well, Chelsea are pretty adamant that Colwell's not someone who's up for sale this summer, that they don't want to move him on. So I think that would be a very difficult one to do. I'd be kind of interested in terms of what profile of that left back and the interest in centre half, and whether they combine those two is really interesting to me, because I know they've got an interest in Aït-Nouri at Wolves. Obviously, that's out there. That's not, and they really do like the player. That's really clear, and I think that's a deal that they could do. But are they going to go down that route? Do they want that kind of flying left back winger type, or are they going to try and move towards more what Arsenal and Manchester City are doing with the kind of centre half who can play left back and go with that kind of way of lining things up? It's a really interesting one, but I wouldn't discount Aït-Nouri in terms of if Tsimikas did move on and they're trying to then sort of succession plan for Robertson, because he's at that kind of the back end of his career now, isn't he? He's a little bit older, and maybe you need a younger left back there. I think Aït-Nouri still, for me, if that's what they want profile wise, I know they've liked him in the past, he would make a lot of sense to me.
So last one before I let you go, David. Bobby Clark. So we've seen a couple of offers rejected to join Pep Linders over at RB Salzburg. I'm wondering, is there a parallel universe where he could end up back up at Newcastle maybe if, let's say, Diaz moves on and we're in negotiations to bring in a certain left winger from Newcastle?
Well, I believe they've been made aware of the fact that he's available and what price Liverpool would find acceptable. So the ball is kind of in their court, really, in terms of whether they want to make that move and they think it's worth doing. Obviously, Salzburg pushing really hard, and at the moment, definitely the closest club out of anyone to to closing a deal. So I do expect him to leave. It'll be interesting to see whether Newcastle do push in and whether they would only kind of want to make that deal if it's part of maybe Gordon going out, or they don't want to necessarily spend straight cash on him, but if they can get him as part of a deal like that, maybe they do come in. But I think, as I say, Salzburg pushing hard, so kind of time's running out really for Newcastle to hang on for that one. And if they do want to get involved, they probably better make a move soon, because I think Liverpool are definitely open to selling. Salzburg getting closer to that price, so I don't think we're too far off a deal being struck for that one.
David, I always appreciate your time. I know how busy you are, especially at this time of the year. So before I let you go, have anything coming up on your own YouTube channel or any articles coming up on your Substack?
Well, hopefully more coverage of transfers incoming would be nice. That'd be nice. So if you guys want to find me on YouTube, and hopefully I'll have some coverage of that, and on Substack as well.
Really appreciate you giving up your time to come and have a chat with us, David. Have yourself a wonderful evening. Thank you very much.
Pleasure.